I cornered in my mind the part of me that's lazy, the part of me that doesn't want to do hard things, the part of me wants to have excuses and quit and whine and be useless and not have integrity, not have drive. I was able to corner that and prove to myself that I could do hard things regardless of what happened. And for me, that was a huge thing because I have a lot more confidence now in setting a goal and then knowing I can accomplish the goal and knowing that through accomplishing that goal, I'm building personal integrity and personal honor and kind of adding that legacy to my last name. Uh, Things that I thought were true and proving to myself things that weren't true to not be true and proving other things right in my life. It's just kind of like a story of mental toughness and how I personally got stronger. I'm definitely not very mentally tough, and there's a lot of legends I look up to. But for me personally, in my progression in life, this is something that really improved my life. About 2 years ago, I was really into endurance running, going at a slower pace and for a distance. And I had messed around with it a little bit, and there was a time where I didn't have much going on. I was right after COVID initially started, and so I was really kind of empty with stuff to do. I was working, but I had a lot of free time, and so I decided, because I wasn't in very good condition running wise, to get back into condition. And so every day I was training, and I got a program, and my buddy and I decided to run a marathon. And the reason I chose this is because endurance running for me personally is very draining, and it's very tiring, and it's very hard. And it's a really good way to test yourself and to prove to yourself that you can do really hard things. For instance, for me, I would set very specific goals. I would run X amount of miles at this pace with this total time. And then in the moment when I'm 70% through or whatever and the pace is really hard, I would really be able to dig deep and kind of fight through that pain. And to me, that's what integrity is proving yourself that you can do hard things and setting a goal and then following through. And so I was proving myself that I could follow through on things. And that's what I kind of utilize this training for. Is endurance running, it's good for your body, it's good for your overall health to an extent, but it's not necessarily like you're growing this insanely great cardiovascular system. It is, unless you're going for speed. Endurance is just really endurance. Like the only point is for just going for a long time. So the point I was getting out of it wasn't necessarily like the physical aspect, it was more the mental aspect of testing my limits and testing my brain. And to me it's a really fascinating thing. At the time I was using this marathon as like the vehicle to grow like my own personal fortitude and my personal integrity. I remember there was times where I was completely against the wall and my brain was shutting down. I was internally freaking out and under a lot of stress, and I couldn't breathe, and my lungs felt like they were full of water, and it was dark outside, and my music or my books were no longer interesting to me, and it was just no headphones and just running, just trying to hold a pace, and just the desperation really kind of teaches you a lot about yourself, of what you're going to, who you are, and kind of where you're going, and kind of how your brain reacts when it's in those situations. Because anybody, anytime can always say, I'm tough, or I have integrity, or I have honor, right? But in those moments, that's where you actually can test those concepts, those beliefs, those principles in your own personal self. Do I have personal honor? Do I have personal integrity? Can I do hard things? And you test that when you kind of push your mind up against a wall in a corner, and then you have to hold it there, right? It's kind of cornering that inner animal of yourself, and then learning to tame it instead of just be controlled by it. It's really learning how to control your passions, your appetites. And as I progressed in this training, my buddy and I we kept going and going and going, and there was times where we trained too much because we didn't know enough about the science. We didn't take enough proper recovery days, where we trained for too many miles. We were up against some deadlines for how to leave, because I was shipping out for some things, and so we had to do the marathon earlier. And so there's a lot of over conditioning or overtraining. And so on the marathon, we were actually supposed to run the 20-mile conditioning run. Next we were going to run the marathon. We got really sick of it, so we just ran the marathon that day, and we decided about 10 miles in when we were refueling with water to we'll just add 6.2 at the end. The last 10 miles, I tore both my hip flexors. I had torn one previously, and so both were torn, and it took about a year for them to heal, through a lot of physical therapy and training them and stretching and rebuilding them. And they're still a little torn, which is why I don't do endurance running too much anymore because of my injuries. But in that moment when I had those 10 miles, I could have quit, and I could have just had my buddy go on ahead and me sit down in the desert, and he'd get the car and we'd just go home. But I decided I was going to keep going. And the reason is I'm an Earl, and to me that means a lot. Earls do hard things. I have a lot of ancestors that are really great people, and they've done really hard things. And so for me, finishing this goal I had was a matter of personal integrity. It was a matter of like personal honor, if that makes sense, in terms of I had to finish this. I had a specific time goal and a specific pace goal, and I didn't meet those at all because the last 10 miles was a lot of walking and hobbling, because both hip flexors, which is the muscles kind of like your inner thighs, they connect up into your torso and then go down on your inner thighs, and they're very thin muscles. Both of them were torn, and so my legs were kind of hurt, and they kind of like opened up a little bit, and so I was a lot of hobbling, duck-footed, a lot of walking, and I remember there was tears, there was a lot of anger, there was a lot of frustration. It was my own personal hell for a long time, and because we're going longer than we were planning on doing it, and it was May 26th or 27th of 2020 in Arizona. It was about 100 degrees, maybe more outside, and so the last couple hours there was just a lot of heat, and so that was another issue that was really tough. And I remember just going and going and going, and my buddy was there with me the whole time, and he was lucky for him not tearing anything. It was totally fine, and I was just dying. I remember I finished it and went to the very point of 26 miles, point 2. And the point 2 is really important as well because it was the final moment. Once we hit there, I ended the thing on my phone, the app, stopped the tracking. That was it, and there was a huge feeling of accomplishment because I cornered in my mind the part of me that's lazy, the part of me that doesn't want to do hard things, the part of me wants to have excuses and quit and whine and be useless and not have integrity, not have drive. I was able to corner that and prove to myself that I could do hard things regardless of what happened. And for me that was a huge thing because I have a lot more confidence now in setting a goal and then knowing I can accomplish the goal, and knowing that through accomplishing that goal I'm building personal integrity and personal honor, and kind of adding that legacy to my last name in terms of becoming better and growing. It was a fantastic growing up experience for me. I had just turned 19 when I did this, a couple weeks before, and so it was a really good testing experience mentally to be under that duress for that long time, and it really grew me, and I'm really grateful for the experience. And now I just have to spend the rest of my life not tearing my hip flexors again and being very careful with them when I'm training. But it was an invaluable lesson, and one of the hardest things I've done, especially one of the hardest things I've done in this small amount of time. And so it was a really good example and effort to prove to myself that I can do hard things, and it was a huge blessing to me.